this is going to be a time to find out about what you have, but not in 8 games, not in 4 games this year. Give him a chance. Peyton Manning, his first year was 3-13, 3-13. Second year is 13-3. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but we get conned by some of these guys who step in. For instance, you mentioned Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, to me, is the exception. That's not the rule.
It came up on the show, and it came up on my radio show. Is Shady a Hall of Famer? And he didn't feel he had enough flexibility with the Jets to do so. All right, I see that Clark Judge from Talk of Fame Network is good enough to join us for a couple minutes today. Hey, Ben, Clark, been a while.
It has been a while. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you coming on board. I got Jeff Kerr by my side today. Couple of major moves in the NFL over the last 24, 48 hours. Jalen Smith released by the Cowboys. Stephon Gilmore released by the Patriots. I want to ask about each of them individually, but combined, something that we can pull out of this, that the NFL is now a league that is more willing to move away from star name players, cap flexibility, non-fits, not going to be put up with, no one willing to do deals or trades for these guys. Is there an underlining message with these two surprising cuts over the last couple of days?
Yeah, money matters. That's what that's about. The thing with the Dallas situation is if he got hurt, they were going to be on the hook for, I think, something like $9 or $10 million next year. And they weren't going to do that. Now, was I surprised? Yeah, I was surprised. I don't live in Dallas, but I didn't see that happening. I live in New England. And so the Stephon Gilmore thing's been going on for a while, and they just apparently just can't get together on a deal. Now, wouldn't you think they'd try to make a deal in terms of trading him? But they just cut him loose. And that's kind of who they are. They've done that in the past. I remember the Randy Moss situation when they got him out of there. Deion Branch, they got him out of there. But they were wide receivers who were looking for new deals. This is a guy who was a premier cornerback, and I'll guarantee you somebody's going to sign him. And I would think Tampa Bay might be first in line, but somebody will sign him, and he'll be a productive player. But in both instances, it comes down to economics. They just felt like they weren't willing to make deals that they felt they couldn't afford, and so moved on.
Jody brought this up earlier, Clark, and this is where the timing of the move is very questionable. You cut Stephon Gilmore, okay, get it. But they might bring back Jamie Collins for a third stint. Like, I don't get what they're thinking.
I often haven't gotten what they're thinking. That's Bill Belichick. And that's why, I mean, you don't really know what goes on in his head. I've tried for years in the past to try to, understand him, but you don't know what's going on. I mean, honestly, when they let Deion Branch go, I went, what's going on here? That was Tom Brady's favorite receiver, Randy Moss. He's the one guy who could stretch the field. They've made some moves in the past. I mean, let's go way back to, some of the defensive backs that they let walk. Yeah, Laurie McLaury is that's the first guy I think of. And he was very popular in that locker room as a productive player. They moved on. That was a long time ago. But he's still the same sort of guy. And I'm talking about Belichick, and it's worked there. But it worked there because he had TB12 with him, all right? And ever since he's lost Tom Brady, things haven't quite been the same. And honestly, I would say if you look at his record without Tom Brady, it's a losing record. So, I don't on the face of it, I don't get it, but I'm not in that office. I'm not around that team daily. I know it's been a source of aggravation for months, and they finally just decided to cut their losses. I agree with you. I don't understand the timing, but both of these guys will be picked up by somebody. They're both productive players who have a lot of football left in them.
One last Patriot question, and then we're going to get your thoughts on Eagles because we enjoy getting out of town, guys. We get so insulated in picking apart every single thing about the Birds. It's nice to get a different perspective. Patriots, Bucks, Sunday night. Yes, the Buccaneers find a way to win late. A field goal on a doink that 6 inches the other way. Maybe the Patriots steal the game. I saw a lot of media members, TV, radio, everywhere else, print, suggesting it was almost a moral victory for the Patriots, which I understood where they were coming from. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
Would Bill Belichick ever accept that? A moral victory? Would you ever see or hear those words come out of the coach's mouth up there in New England?
Jody, you know better than that to ask that question. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
He
everybody
wanted
in
to
the
win
world
that.
is saying except the one guy that matters, the
He
actual head coach of the team.
he wanted to win that game badly, and so did the quarterback on the other side. I thought that what I took from that ball game was that we made a lot about Brady and Belichick, and the guy we're talking about afterwards is Mac Jones. Mac Jones played well. He outplayed Brady. I mean, Brady outlasted him, but Mac Jones outplayed him. Now, he didn't win, but I think they may have something there. Now, it's far too soon to say that he's going to be an established quarterback. Way too soon. But with the conditions they were, the way they were, it was a playoff type of atmosphere. The emotions that were involved, I thought he rose above it. I thought he played poised, played smart, and he put them in position to win the game. The difference to me in that ball game was that 56-yard field goal, not because it was missed, but because it was tried. And I will go back a week earlier. I used to cover the Chargers for a long time, so I'm always connected to them and always really interested in what happens with them. They had a 4th and 4 at the 30-yard line to kick a possibly game-winning field goal against Kansas City. Illegal procedure. 4th and 9 now, so it's from the 35. So it's closer than where the Patriots were. And they had a kicker who didn't kick 36 straight field goals, but they had a kicker they relied on. And what did Brandon Staley do? He went for it. He went for it because he knew, I don't care how much time is left on the clock. If there's more than 30 seconds, Mahomes is going to beat me. Well, you've got a minute left. And of all people, Bill Belichick should know, even if we make that field goal, I've left too much time on the clock for this guy. Dallas discovered that the season opener. And so if you make the field goal, all right, there's still a minute left on the clock. What do you think's going to happen? He'll put him in field goal position and they'll win the game. So I was surprised at that. That said, I thought Mac Jones did a terrific job. I think he's got, it seems, a future. But again, that's 4 games into the season. I thought he accounted himself very well.
Clark, I know you've covered the Chargers for a long time, and I have to ask because I am the biggest Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert fan on this planet. Where do you rank Justin Herbert among the quarterbacks? I got him top 5 already. He's that good.
Top 5 of
the league right now. We did 4.
Yeah, so do I. Oh, so do I. Yeah, the way he's playing. Yeah, I've got so much confidence in him. The one game they lost this year was to Dallas. He made a couple bad throws, one in the end zone, but that's not like him. He is so accurate. When they drafted him, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, I wasn't pleased because I'd seen him his last year at Oregon. I didn't think he was particularly good.
I heard.
Yeah, and I thought, I'm not sure what they're doing, and they were, and I give Tom Telesco a lot of credit because he stuck by it. He was there. He took him, and immediately he made an impression. The second game of last year, I don't know if you guys recall it. That's where Tyrod Taylor was their starter, and all of a sudden they're playing Kansas City. Yeah, and before the Kansas City game, all of a sudden Tyrod Taylor says, I'm not feeling well, and what happened was he had a rib injury, is significant. You rush this kid in, he's got to play Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So good luck. Well, he threw for over 300 yards. They took the game to OT. They should have won the game. They didn't. Why? Because the coach didn't have the guts to go for a 4th and 1. They've got a coach now who's aggressive and says, I think this guy can get virtually anything. And when he was asked about that 4th and 9, why do you go for it when you can kick the field goal? He said, because I have the best player on the field.
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes was the opponent. I have the best player on the field. I like that.
Clark Judge of Talk of Fame Network, Sports Illustrated website, here with us on Birds 365. I want to ask about the Birds. Everybody wants to get everyone's opinion registered on Jalen Hurts. It's been all of 4 games. We know I continue to harp on. I'm getting perturbed by those that are already deigning him the Eagles quarterback of the future or 4 games. No, you shouldn't. Or tossing him out with the bathwater after 4 games. No, you shouldn't. You've got all year to judge him, and you should be judging him each and every single week. We're not asking you to give us a definitive answer on whether he's the Eagles' future quarterback or not. But do you like what you see out of Jalen Hurts' first 4 weeks, Clark?
I like it, but I'm not sold. I'm somewhere in between, Jody. I'm not trying to take the easy way out. What is that? Eight games?
That's the way it should be done at this time. You're
8
right.
games. Yeah, 8 games. And so I look at it and think, you know, his rookie year, and I go back because I was living in New York at the time, Eli Manning's rookie year, he came in the 10th game of the year, and they had been 5-4.
Under
and
Kurt Warner, right?
Yeah, with Kurt Warner, and they've been 5-4, and they were still in the mix, you know. But at that point, Tom Coughlin said, "We're going with the rookie. I mean, we're going with the guy we believe in." And he was awful. He wasn't bad. He was awful. And he goes down to Baltimore and he produced a Blutarski. He had a 0.00 passer rating, and people were saying, "What's going on? Why did they make this deal? Is he worth all that we gave up for him?" But they said, "Patience, be patient." And the last game of the year, he actually won a game. I think it was against Dallas. He won a game. And so they got what they wanted, which was some experience. And next year they rolled him forward. Last year, you got what you wanted from Hurts. You got some experience at the end of the year. Wasn't sure what was going on that last game of the season, but then you rolled forward. And now you've got 4 more games, and you've seen the good and the bad, and not so much the ugly, and occasional. But he's a young guy. He's still in his first year, really, as a rookie. And again, I mean, I'll go back to these guys. You know, you're right. I've covered this league for a long time. I remember John Elway's first year out in San Diego. He lines up under guard to take a snap. He threw 7 touchdown passes that year, 14 interceptions. They had Steve DeBerg to relieve him all the time. It's a learning process. But in this day and age, we don't have any patience with anything, because of social media. You're either the worst, you're the best, whatever. There's no in between. Give this guy a chance to grow, for goodness sakes. I mean, Donovan McNabb didn't become a franchise quarterback overnight. He didn't. Pretty good quarterback, but took him a while, you know, and he played behind Peterson that first year. And so I would preach patience to Eagles fans who don't have it. And I understand that, but you're not going to get everything at once. I look at that division. It's Dallas and everybody else. I don't think anyone challenges Dallas. Dallas is pretty good. And so this is going to be a time to find out about what you have, but not in 8 games, not in 4 games this year. Give him a chance. Peyton Manning, his first year, was 3-13. 3-13. Second year is 13-3. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but we get conned by some of these guys who step in. For instance, you mentioned Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, to me, is the exception. That's not the rule. That's the exception. And the rule is more what Jalen Hurts is going through. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, Clark, I want to elaborate on that too, because I'm a big stat guy. And I found this very interesting stat this week on Jalen Hurts that quarterbacks with 2,500 plus yards of total offense, you know, rushing, passing, their first 8 career starts. Cam Newton, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, Eagles fans want this guy bench for Gardner Minshew. Like, and they're like, well, you're acting like he's going to be Cam. I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm just saying, you know, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, the guy's putting up numbers right now.
Yeah, he is. I'm not a big stats guy. The big stat I want is wins.
Yeah,
wins and losses. And that's what I love about Brady. I've always loved about Brady. He doesn't care about stats. He doesn't care whether he throws a touchdown pass or not. I mean, he wants to win, and that's all that matters. And if I've believed that for a long time, I look at guys, and Roethlisberger is an example. I think Roethlisberger was a great quarterback. Not now, but he's a great quarterback because he wins twice as many games as he loses. That's what you want. You want me. Herm Edwards is right. You play the game to win. You know, you play it to win. And so I want a guy who gets people around him and rallies them to win. And I've talked to people in and around the Patriots for enough years to know what Brady did with that team. He took marginal players and lifted them up. How? I don't know. Some guys can do that. Manning could do that. Mahomes seems to be able to do that. You put them on. I go back to, Jody, remember this guy, Burt Jones. Burt Jones did that, carried the Colts on his back in the 1970s, you know, and I go way back. I mean, I was a kid, certainly wasn't covering him. I'm not that old, but as a kid, I mean, I watched Unitas, and Unitas was my first childhood hero. In fact, there you go, guys. John Unitas.
There you go.
There you go.
Proud of you. Very good.
So, in any case, I was a big Colts fan, but I love the quarterbacks that can do that to the rest of the team. And so I see, in fact, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, since you mentioned that, I was at a game in Philadelphia when Vince Young was the quarterback. They brought in Vince Young to play, and they were playing, I think, New England. I'm pretty sure they were playing New England.
He threw for 400.
He threw for 400, and someone said to me afterwards, and I must have been a fantasy football player, boy, he had a great game. I said, if you had been in that game, you would know he didn't have a great game. It's a lot of garbage time there where he piled up ridiculous numbers. And that's why I think numbers can be misleading. But I want a guy who's got leadership ability. That to me is the quality that most reveals itself in quarterback is leadership, Brady's got it. You'll see others. Brady's not a particularly talented quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he makes some throws that others can't, but you want the 5 most talented quarterbacks today? He's not one of them. 10 most, probably not one of them either, but he makes the throws he needs to make. He wins the game he has to win. And so that's what I like about them. With Hurts, to me, is it's too early to tell. He's an extraordinarily talented guy. Yeah, he can produce a lot of numbers, running, passing, that sort of thing. But let's find out, in games to come, big games. This certainly was a game that you'd sort of measure the team by, but to me, it was a little bit unfair because you're chasing Mahomes with a defense that couldn't stop him. So you're constantly chasing with field goals. You can't win with field goals against Mahomes.
The infamous Dream Team with Vince Young. Had to bring that one up, huh, Clark? Rub a little salt.
I remember that game too.
That's okay. Last thing, Clark, and then we'll let you run. And I immediately thought of you this week because the conversation came up last week. I think of you as a Hall of Fame guy because you got a Hall of Fame vote and you work for Talk of Fame.
Yeah.
Shady McCoy retired as an Eagle last week. Came back at a halftime ceremony. He went elsewhere afterwards. Had a good years in Buffalo. Got a couple of cheapy Super Bowl rings being a member of the Chiefs and the Bucks the last couple of years. And you put whatever emphasis you put on that. It came up on the show and it came up on my radio show. Is Shady a Hall of Famer? I say no.
Yeah,
you're a guy who's got to vote. You know how the guys think and what gets said in the room when it gets debated. And
right.
Is Shady McCoy a Hall of Famer?
Off the top of my head, I'd say no also, but I'd like to look at it more carefully, Jody. Honestly, it takes some investigation, examination. I'd like to look at his case more clearly. Was he a guy you consider one of the top 2 or 3 backs in the league at one point? I don't know that. I mean, off the top of my head, again, I'd say probably not, but I remember covering those Eagles teams when he was a load. And yet he's in a class, or will be in a class that's going to be loaded. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald probably is going to be in it. We don't know if he'll play again. Frank Gore probably is going to be in it. Luke Kuechly definitely is in it. You start going down the list, and it's a loaded class. That doesn't mean he has to get in immediately, but he's got 20 years to do it. But we're really sort of reluctant to act on running backs lately for whatever reason. I mean, Edge just got in, but Edge had to wait a while. And you look at his numbers, and he played on, a championship. No, actually, he didn't. He was not on that championship team, but he played on really good Colts teams. Then goes to Arizona, and they get to the Super Bowl. But he was a guy that you associate with Manning and with Marvin Harrison. It was kind of a triplet situation like it was in Dallas. I don't know that you would say that about McCoy, because I think when you think of those Eagles, what comes up, you go, Brian Westbrook, honestly, to me, is one of the most unsung guys of all. McNabb, okay, McCoy was there. But on the defensive side of the ball, boy, that secondary was so good. What Jim was doing, Jim Johnson was doing, I think more of them on that defensive side. And then McNabb, I think he'll be in the conversation. I'm not trying to dodge the question, even though it sounds like it. I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
But off the top of my head, just to say, I go, probably not. It's probably the best of the best of the best. And so is he? Well, off the top of my head, I'd say no. But is Frank Gore? Frank Gore was a compiler. But Frank Gore was never an All-Pro. He was and so he was a guy that got it. But he's going to be in. He's good because he's the 3rd or 4th leading all-time rush. He's going to be in. And so and yet did he ever win a rushing crown? No, he didn't. So you start going down checklists, and that's what guys will do there. And Jeff, you talk about stats. They'll go down other things. Championships. Did he win one? And the answer is no. Was he in conference championship games? The answer is yes, many of them. Rushing titles. Let's start going down. All pros, Pro Bowls. And Pro Bowls are minimized now because they're more like popularity contests.
Right.
But all pros, all pro, and all decade. Was he that? And all decade resonates with me. It really does. All pro does as well. But that's where it comes down to, Jody. And that's when you start dissecting that. And that's why I said, because I don't have that in front of me, I could certainly get it in a moment's notice. But
no. We're not going to. I thought maybe you just, because he did the retirement thing, thought maybe you'd put the.
No. I mean, I always respected him. Always respected the guy.
Clark, I'm going to call you and ask you to come back on the show in about 5 or 6 weeks. And when I call
about 5 or 6 minutes, I mean, I can give you an idea.
Unfortunately, we got to put a wrap on the show. But thank you for coming on. And no, I'm going to call in about 5 or 6 weeks and I am going to hold your feet to the fire as to whether Shady McCoy is a Hall of Famer or not. Fair enough?
No, you should. You should. And thanks, guys. Thanks for the time. Good talking to you.
Our pleasure. That is Clark Judge of Talk of Fame, Sports Illustrated site here with us on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, TK, I got to get out of here. Got another gig I got to do, so we're going to wrap the show a little bit early today. Thanks for hopping on board. If you want to, real quickly, don't know if we're going to get you up Thursday or Friday. Eagles got a chance to win this week in Carolina?
I'm 4-0 in picks this year, but I have a feeling that this could be an upset. I mean, after watching that, I just got done watching the Carolina-Dallas game last night before I went to bed. And, the second time I watched it, I started thinking to myself, this is a good team. And I go on a lot of Carolina radio stations in Charlotte, and I've hyped up this team. And I said, look, this team really has a chance to go 5-1, 6-1 to start the year. But I don't know the way.
Make a call here, Kerr. You're hedging. Make a call.
All right, I'll go Eagles right now. I'm going to go Eagles. It's Wednesday. I'll go Eagles.
Eagles. All right. And I'll text you on Friday and see if you want to change your mind. But JK, thanks for hopping in with us today. Appreciate it greatly. We'll have you back up soon enough, bud.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Jody.
We'll be back here. Birds 365 in 22 hours plus. So keep it here on the JAKIB Media.